All right, and we'll get started here. Just to recap a little bit on the Portland State game, we played well, and we talked about special teams. We had some game-changing special teams this past game, which was good to see. I think overall, just the consistency of our team, still improvements need to be made, which I think every single week we'll say the same thing. It's good to be able to do that with a win because we're going to learn every single week. But other than that, the guys came out Sunday and practiced well, got themselves ready to go for this week by having a good start to a Friday and a short week and getting prepared for Air Force. And we're on to Air Force now and getting ready for, this Friday. And hopefully we have a packed house. We have a great crowd. You got two undefeated teams that are playing against each other, and it should be exciting. So hopefully people are fired up on that. Did appreciate the crowd last game and the noise and the vibe, which is important to our success. And hopefully, just like our football team, we're getting better at that with packing Albertson Stadium and getting everybody here, getting to be a chance to be a part of it. It's going to be a blackout game, so we're going to get the new black uniforms. We'll wear those finally and debut those. Our guys are excited about it. But more importantly, it really comes down to our focus this week and just getting ourselves better, taking what we learned the first three games and applying it to Air Force and doing that in practice, doing that in our preparation, and making all those things a priority this week. That's really what has to happen, and just focused on trying to go back and be 1-0 at the end of the week against a really good football team. We have history with Air Force, and you guys have seen those games over the years, so we have a lot of respect for their team, their players, their coaches, and how they go about their business. Triple option, we know we're going to see that. We prepare for it. We spend time on it in the off season, so now it's time to go back and recall what we learned and apply it to a short week. But they're very good. Their quarterback is playing well. Their running backs are playing well. They're tight end. They got a lot of good players on this team and a fairly veteran team all around. Defensively, very solid. Again, their safeties on their team continue to be great tacklers. They find these guys that can go play that position. They play it very well. They play it consistently. But just across the board, very impressed with what they did against Colorado. And for an Air Force team to go into a Pac-12 opponent's house, play them, beat them like they did, that's impressive. That's a good win for Air Force. And I think Colorado is a good football team. They played Nebraska the week before, beat them. And Air Force found a way to get it done. Special teams, don't know a whole lot about them. I know they're solid, and we'll get to more of their film and watch these guys a little bit more later in the day, but know they play very well. They've had blocked punts in the past. They did against us back in 2016, so we're aware of that, and we need to make sure that we're taking care of our business on that side of the ball. So with that, that's where we're at. That's where the focus is right now. Get to Air Force, get on to preparing this week, and we got to turn around to Thursday practice, make it a Friday night, and get ready for Saturday, which is our Friday here, but Saturday in our minds. And, our guys just staying focused on the process, staying focused on what they have to do and how they're getting themselves ready to go. But the football part of things, I saw something, and I thought this was a little bit crazy, and this is actually before I just walked in here. I saw there's a decline in football. From 1999, I think we're at our lowest for the sport. And I think the other sport that's being hit more is women's basketball. And so it's crazy to me that you have team sports like this and they're declining. And just that mindset, the first thing that comes to my mind is, you're going to be a part of something bigger than yourself. You get to go out there and play with a group of people, which so much right now we're so self-centered on just, what we can put out there on Instagram or Twitter, and, it can be all about yourself. And how about being a part of a team and being a part of something that challenges you, that you got to work with people, which is what we have to do in real life, and I think that's crazy. And so, my son plays sports, and, I get a chance to be around that with some of the younger people, and I think they do a fantastic job, and it's great that young people get a chance to be around coaches and other teammates and see how it works and go through the ups and downs and learn that as they go. And I think sports provide that. So, hopefully that grows. Hopefully we get better in those areas. And I think it's important. We have to promote sports and not always bash them and not always be down on what sports bring. I know there's a physical side to football, and there's, like any risk you have in anything you do, you assume that when you go out there and play. But, you know, as far as what the benefits are and the things that we talk about in this room and what guys learn as far as leadership and working with other people, building skills that they can use in real life when they get out of here, because football is going to end, I think this sport provides all that. I think it provides that development just as a person. And, you know, to me, to see that decline, that's disappointing. So I hope that we can promote, we can do a better job, and certainly as a coach in the position that we're all in, you know, that we get together on that. We think about how we make our sports better. We get people involved in it. We see the benefit of it. Maybe we show the benefit of it even more. And, you know, that number starts to go up, because sports is, in my opinion, you know, one of the best ways to develop yourself within a group of people, and then truly understand being a part of something bigger than yourself and getting that ingrained at an early age. Because at some point, and for our guys in here, we talk about it, you know, if you want to have a family, all right, you're going to get married, and then at some point you may have kids and you have a family, and you got to, you know, one, you need to understand how to deal with people, your spouse, your kids, all those things. And I tell them all the time now, hey, you know, you're going to be first string right now, and you get married, you're second string. You have a kid, you're third string. Pretty soon you have multiple kids, you're on the scout team. So just understand that. And that's okay. You know, you have a role, just like our scout team players do. You have a role. It's a very important role. But, you know, some of that is got to be learned being a part of a team. And I really do believe that. So I hope people hear me on that, and I hope that we can all do a better job of supporting our sports. It doesn't matter what sport it is, any sport, but we get people out there to be a part of it, and they have a great experience. So with that, questions?
John Hightower, we obviously saw the kick return and the other touchdown that he had. You know, just how you kind of, you know, how'd you see him kind of progress from the academic issue after last season, and just kind of him, you know, getting to this point where he's obviously one of your key players, because there's obviously a ton of talent there with him, and obviously he had some other stuff he had to get figured out.
Sure.
Too.
Yeah, well, he's certainly talented. And isn't that the story of a lot of people that are extremely talented, but there's a lot more to it than just being talented? And what I think John has learned and has done a really good job of is he knows how to play the game. He's an extremely intelligent football player, one of the best I've been around, and very explosive, very dynamic in how we can utilize him. He did a lot of things this last game, but just handling your business. You know, you got to take care of things. And like I just talked about, when you're a part of a team, everybody has a role and everybody has to do that. It doesn't matter if you're a starter, it doesn't matter if you're a backup, scout team, it's all the same. We all have a role, and we have to go out there and do it to the best of our ability. And I think he's learned that. He's become a better teammate. He's become a better leader on our team. And then because of that, I think he's experiencing success because he's handling himself the right way. And to me, like, you wake up in the morning, you know you're doing things right, you know you're taking care of business, then you can go out there and you can perform at whatever it is you want to do. And it happens to be football for him, and he's really good at it. So I hope that continues. I hope he sees that. I think he has. He's done a good job for us right now. But if all that continues, you know, with life and football, and really for every one of our players, then I think guys like that are talented will have continued success. It'll show up on the football field. He's not the only guy that way. You know, there's a lot of guys in this room, and college football is really hard. You have to do a lot of things, and you gotta be on time. You gotta do it every day, and everything does matter. And some guys, you know, they don't see that right away until something's taken away from them. And when you don't get to play in a bowl game or get a chance to prepare for a bowl game, that hurts. No matter what you think, I mean, that stings. And at some point, it's like either I'm going to be a part of this or I'm not. And he chose to be a part of it. He made the right decision. We all make mistakes. It's just how you handle it, right? And he's handled it the right way so far. And if he continues that, he'll be a playmaker for us the rest of this season. He'll do a lot of really good things.
From your perspective, what exactly about Air Force's offense makes it such a challenge?
Well, not just the scheme itself. You know, they do a really good job. It's not just triple option. they actually are very creative in their formations. They're creative in how they attack each team. You know, they try to find, like every offense does, a weakness and try to attack it and see what they can do. They make adjustments along the way in the game. They kind of know what they do and how to answer the questions that the defense provides. And then their quarterback, I think he's playing really well. He can throw the ball well. They hit some explosive plays on us last year. And, you know, the guys around him, they're really good at what they do. Offense is about execution, and they execute very well and at a high level, and they do it consistently. And, you know, I feel like when you have that run threat, which they do, and then you've got the ability to throw it, which they do, now as far as what you have to do on the defensive side, you got to be focused every play. You got to play with great eyes. You got to be in the right spot and doing your job. And if you're not, then at some point when you get out of phase with the other 10 players, that could be the one guy that it makes the difference in the play. And it could be a 5-yard gain or a 50-yard gain. And, you know, we've seen Air Force do that. They're very well coached. Troy Calhoun, I think, does a tremendous job. And, you know, their players are disciplined. They're disciplined. They're tough. And it shows up every single time I watch them play. And it showed up in this Colorado game when they went out there and played. They made plays. I think there were some turnovers, some things like that in the game, but these guys battled back. They fought, you know, a really tough game all the way through 4 quarters of it. They found a way to finish, and they won. So to me, that's the challenge, is you're playing a good football team that happens to have a unique scheme, and they do it really well, but they've got things off of it to complement it.
You had 2 brand new starters forced into
Pardon
action.
me?
You had 2 brand new starters forced into action on the O-line Saturday night. How would you assess
We didn't
the,
force them. They chose
Well,
to play.
yes.
I want to be very clear on that,
They
all right? You know,
volunteered.
just how things are nowadays, right? Well, you didn't force anybody.
Right.
They chose to play.
But how would you
I'm just kidding
assess
with
the Curran and Gonzalez, and then what's the outlook for this week?
Yeah, well, probably the same. You know, we'll see where we're at. I thought Garrett played well at right tackle, and Kay Connie was a guy that he's been playing well in practice, so it was a matter of he needed to get his opportunity to go out there and play. And I think Kay Connie is exceptional as an inside player. You know, he's not as long as some of our tackles, so he can play inside. He's been playing center. And you just move over, right, either guard. You know, you're not snapping the ball, but you're ready to go in there and play that position. You understand what it takes to play inside. And then Garrett did a good job. You know, the one thing about when you get put into a position to play and you haven't played, it's just it's the finishing. You know, that's really where players kind of separate themselves, when they go out there and they finish. And it may not seem like, you know, it may seem like the plays, you got it handled and all that, then somebody spins off or somebody blitzes, and that was your responsibility. You just got to keep your eye on the prize all the way through the play. And I thought they did that for the most part pretty well, and I thought there were times that the inexperience of just finishing showed up in the game. And that's where young players have to learn, like, your job is to go full speed the entire play all the way through the whistle. And we did that for the most part, but we didn't do it consistently enough. And those 2 guys were not the only ones, but those 2 guys were the young ones in there that had to learn that. And I think now that they've got a chance to play, they got a taste, they understand what it really does take every single play in the game. They're going to be better going into this week.
I was wondering, you know, how you would assess how your corners have been playing. I know obviously that's part of a big part of the defense. You lose Tyler Horton, and it seems like Jalen Walker's stepped up and done pretty nice this season. I was wondering, maybe from your perspective, how you think those 2 guys have done.
Yeah, the corners, they got the toughest job out there. You're going to play them in man coverage, and you press them. Do you play them off? It's one of those, if they're pressed and it gets thrown over their head, you're thinking, why did you press them? And if they're off and they complete it in front of them, it's something easy. Well, why aren't they up there? It's one of those battles that they probably never win when it comes to just what they should be doing. Now, the play call tells them what to do, but everybody's perception of it. I think they played well. They communicate well. They've tackled well. I think they battled when the ball's been in the air, and have done a nice job of that. They've covered their guy. They've plastered their guy when they're supposed to. We haven't had really anybody cut loose, so to speak. And, you know, those guys have been preparing. One thing with Jalen this year. I think he's really taken on that role of just getting himself prepared week in and week out, and understanding that you got Avery on one side, and we played Florida State, and they were attacking him. Then they started attacking Jalen, and then you got Markel Reed coming in. You got Tyreek LaBeouf coming in there. It's just, that's just part of that position. You better have a short memory, and you better have a whole lot of mental toughness. But it's a very technical position to do the jobs that we ask them to do. Sometimes they have to go out there and tackle, so eyes have to be inside, but don't lose your wide receiver. There's just so many things that these guys have to be focused on. So if they prepare well, then it shows up in the game. When we don't prepare well, it shows up in the game. And to me, that's always my message for them. I'm not coaching that position. I'm not trying to go out there and teach them technique. Coach Brown does a great job of that. He's played the position. He understands it. Those guys listen to him. I'm more of kind of a checkup from the neck up at the corner position. Like, hey, listen, if this happens, come back. Because you might get beat, but you can come back and make a play. And you have an opportunity to make a play. Now let's go out there and act like a wide receiver, and like Keikoa did, went up there and snatched the ball and took it away, and we got a big turnover. And those guys have chances to do that. So as long as their preparation each week, they stay focused, they don't get caught up in anything other than just what they have to do and their assignments and communicating with the safeties and other people on the defense, then those guys at that position can go play well, and they've shown that so far. Be a big challenge now. That group, big challenge this week too. I mean, you're talking about triple option. It's passing, it's different, but you're talking about pitches and taking care of that. Portland State had a pitch on the perimeter, ended up going for a big play. Well, those guys are the ones on the edges that have to try to eliminate that. And we got better at it, but it still happened to us. And it's some of those type of things. And that's what I'm talking about. Consistency is just with everybody. Like those type of things, there's an answer for it, but you have to do it. And we make mistakes, and what did they do? They came right back, they answered it, they corrected it, and then they tried to run reverse and do some different things to take advantage of bad eyes on the defensive side. We didn't have that. We were right in position, and they made plays.
Looking at Hank's numbers on third downs, they're really good. 75% completions and a lot of first downs and touchdowns, and better than his first and second down numbers. Is there anything you notice that makes him really solid on third downs? Because I would think third downs would be harder than first and second.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, he has done well, and I think a lot of that has to do with the guys around him making plays. I think Khalil's had some pretty good catches on third downs, and we had that one tip for a touchdown. I believe that was a third down there in the end zone. So I think the guys around him are playing well. I think some of the schemes that Coach Hill and Coach Keesaw come up with each week on third down, because that's the situation, right? I've said this before. You can play first and second down. Anybody on our team can do that. Really good players can play well on third downs, and that extends drives. We don't want to be the 3 and out. We at least want to get to 4, 5, and 6 and have opportunities to extend our drives offensively. And when you get into those money situations, we got to execute. We practice it a lot. We spend a lot of time on it. It's something that we focus on, and we've been able to answer that challenge for the most part. But every week's different. Every third down team we play, we're going to get a different look this week from Air Force and what they do, and they'll have different ways to attack us. So what are we doing, how are we preparing, and how are we going to go out there and just find whatever that indicator is we're looking for, and then go out there and execute the play. So to me, everybody's got to be on point. It's not just our quarterback. It's protection, it's tight ends, it's wide receivers, it's D-line, not D-line, it's running backs. It's everybody doing their part on third downs to make sure that we're executing in those situations.
The other night, I think Robin.
You want some of this? I got another bottle down here if you need one. I feel the same way.
I think Robin George combined for like 12 carries the other night. I wonder if that was the plan or if it just kind of worked out that way, and you need to get those guys maybe a little more involved this week.
It wasn't necessarily planned that way. I think we threw the ball a little bit. We kind of got into a few plays back-to-back where we threw it, and we ended up scoring a touchdown to Hightower, which was good. And a little bit of that, too, is sometimes, how are they playing us? Are they going to play for the run? They're going to give us some one-on-one matchups. So it all depends on what we're seeing. We want to go out there. We'd love to run the ball. We want to run the ball. We like to be consistent with that. But at the same time, when they got everybody down in the box, you need to throw it. And we're not going to sit there and say, regardless of what they do, we're going to run it. We're going to try to take advantage of the best look that we have in order to do that. But those guys carrying the ball, yes, we'd like to see those numbers up. And they were in the the previous 2 games, right? They carried a lot more. So it's not like we went out there and said, hey, we're going to purposely not carry the ball as much this week and utilize those guys. I think it's how Portland State was playing us. Now, I said earlier in the week against Portland State, their defense was built to stop the run. They got that flex player. He's right down there. It's really hard to figure out where he was. He was strong and weak. They did a really good job with that, and he's a threat. So at some point, you're getting man coverage. It's like we got to take advantage of man coverage and not try to just run into an extra defender and see if our back can make a miss consistently over and over, because that's hard to do. But hopefully we get a chance. If we get a good box and we get a good look, we want to run it. If we don't, we got to throw it and just keep playing that kind of cat and mouse game a little bit.
2 weeks ago, Air Force threw 1 pass in the whole game. Last weekend, 2 long touchdown passes
Threw 12
against
times last week.
Colorado, and they also had a shovel pass, should have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
How do you keep your safeties and your defensive backs from sucking up to stop
Sure.
the run?
Yeah, good question. That's the challenge right there. That any team that runs the ball, it's really the same for us. You run the ball and guys get tight, well then you try to throw the ball over their head. You just play that game, and it's no different for them. And I've seen a little bit of their offense. I watched a few plays of it. I'll study more of that tonight. But when they're going to play that way, or they feel like they can take advantage of a one-on-one matchup, or they can get a shot, and I think with their quarterback, he's throwing the ball really well. I thought last year when we played him, he threw the ball well. So he's a guy that's a threat. He can drop back. He can play catch. He can take shots. He can complete passes. He's an accurate thrower. So 1 time in the first game, 12 times in the second game, right? Same thing that, Chad's asking me, like, well, why didn't you run it as much in that game? Well, maybe because of how Colorado was playing defense, and they gave them some matchups out there that they could take advantage of. The key is when they do put the ball in the air, I mean, we have to play with great eyes, so we have to get back in coverage. We can't get sucked down, so to speak, and let them just run free. That's happened to us before, and that's why every play against a team like this, every play is a new play. You got to go right back through your process. You got to go right back to your keys. You got to go right back to, all right, what are they trying to do? What's the situation? Is it 3rd down and 10 or is it 1st down and 10? You need to know all these things every single play. And if you tune out, that's where all of a sudden, if you just tune out, you don't know the situation, you don't know the field position, you don't know that guy's lined up in a different position, and you just really take the whole thought process out of it, you're going to get beat. And so that's the discipline piece that we have to really focus on, and the consistency piece this week in particular, that we don't let that happen.
Obviously, when Chase came in, he played pretty well for you. And
Yeah.
I'm not mentioning the controversy thing, but obviously you'd like to maybe try to get him involved a little bit. What did you learn from 2 years ago with Brett and Montel, maybe to try to balance that a little bit, and maybe especially with a young quarterback and Hank, trying to make sure that he obviously doesn't lose any sort of confidence if you
Sure.
put Chase in?
Well, I think Montel and Brett's situation last year was different. Brett got hurt in the Washington State game, and then Montel came in and started. So we actually got to see Montel play a whole game. And at that point, Montel, just like Chase, Montel is a guy that was a tremendous leader, great teammate. Everybody loved him, and him on the field, he made us better. I think Chase, he went out there, he made us better, right? He went out there, made plays, looked really good, was poised, and it was good to see. So he's a guy that, we can get on the field, but it's not for any reason other than we wanted to play him, and he's feeling good now. I mean, you guys got to think this ACL deal, it's a long time recovery, and that's something that it's just hard to explain to everybody how long it really takes. And you saw Chase take off, he got loose and had a big run, got in the open field, kind of made a cut like he did in practice, got hit, got up, and it was like, okay, that might be it. Maybe that's that one thing right there where it's like, boom, I needed that as a player, and he certainly played like that. But having him on the field, however we utilize him, I don't know if we go this back and forth like we did with Montel and Brett. That was really that season. I wouldn't say we're in that same mode right now, but I do feel good about Chase being in there and playing. I do feel good about Jalen Henderson getting in there and playing as well. So, we have 3 quarterbacks that can really go in there and operate, and those guys all prepare, and Chase was ready, and I told you guys, he's always ready on the sideline. He got his shot, went in there. He took about one of the best 5-step drops I've ever seen from our quarterbacks here and laid a dime up to CT, and it was as good as as good as I've seen. And Chase has got that too. Chase has got that pro-style body, and he's got the ability to run now, but he can drop back and he can fire it. And I think for him, he deserved it, one, but it gave him great confidence. I think everybody around him felt good about it. And when he's on the field, like any other player, when you got guys, and you guys haven't seen the work he's put in to get to where he is right now, and all the rehab and all the time and just the pain that he went through. I mean, even in fall camp, that wasn't easy for him. It was painful, and we limited reps and all that, but after each practice, it was painful. And he would take care of his knee, he would ice it, he would do the rehab, he would do all that, and he'd come back the next day, and he was back at it again. So we pay attention to that, and guys like that, like I love guys like that. I love guys that are just hard workers, dedicated, and tough. And so when he went out there and played, I was fired up. When he threw that touchdown, I mean, it was emotional. I was excited for him, and because I know how much work he's put in, and I know how much he deserves it. So if he's in these game plans moving forward, he'll play well. We'll be able to use him however we need to use him. But at the same time, his leadership and what he provides, just off the field is equally as important to our success, in my opinion.
We've talked a lot about your guys' success on third down, both on offense and defense, the focus on improving, efficiency inside the red zone. Air Force, when it comes to converting on third down and red zone efficiency, they're constantly one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah.
And they score touchdowns when they get inside the red zone. So how much of that is a kind of a part of the battle within the battle, and can it really, swing or dictate the outcome of a game like this?
Yeah, they're good. They keep themselves in manageable third downs so they can execute it. And if they get into a fourth down, they probably got a good play for that as well, probably fourth and short. Red zone efficiency, absolutely. Now, our red zone efficiency went up, which is what we wanted to see, and it's still not overall in all the games we played where we want it, but we did get better at it. And, hopefully that continues this week. But, yes, when you play a team that gets down there and they score, when you get down there, you need to score. And also defensively, let's not, forget about the defense, too. They can swell up. They can go make plays, and I think our defense has shown to be fairly successful in the red zone and on third downs and some of those key situations. Those guys are no slouches either. I mean, we got good players that are making plays on the defensive side, and it's going to be a bigger challenge this week. It's the next game, and they're going to have to be ready for that. And those situational moments when they get out there, we'll see how we operate. But I feel confident in our defense and how they're going to get themselves ready to go. I don't think they're going to shy away from it. Now it's just a matter of whether we make the play or not.
The mental health initiative Bronco Bold was just launched. How is
Yeah.
this team kind of embracing it?
Well, that whole initiative, that was something, this last week, Mark Paul and the players, not our players, all the student athletes that were involved in it. So we have our football team and players on this team that are involved, but there's so many other student athletes that are making this happen. What I think it is, it's bringing attention to something that is important to everybody, but especially to young people, that are athletes as well. And because they have a voice, we have an opportunity like I have right now to speak in front of people and to bring this up. And they have an opportunity to get in front of a crowd and put it on the Jumbotron there and send a message out to somebody. And that's really what it's about, right? I think the mental health part of things is letting people know that you're thinking about it or we're aware of it. Because I think when you get, and from what I've learned, when you're not thinking right, sometimes it just takes somebody letting you know that you're thinking about them or you're aware of it, and that can change somebody from, having an issue or just bringing awareness to it, bottom line. And I think they're doing a great job with it. I thought the Bronco Bold last week, how we put it out, our video team that does a tremendous job obviously knocked that out like they always do. I think we have the best in the business with the people that run our video department and how they put out these different messages and the way it looks and how it gets across to people. So that'll be something that's continued. This isn't just a one-time thing. This will be something that this campus and university will embrace, and we'll continue to embrace it with our players. But at the same time, it's a real issue that we need to talk about, we need to address. And like they said in the message, we talk about nutrition and weight training and working out and all these other things. Well, what about, where are you at mentally? How are you feeling? Do you feel like you're a part of things? And understanding that and bringing awareness to it is important. And I think people appreciate that, and I certainly know our players do, and all the student athletes do.
I know each and every year is different. Last 2 years in this matchup, though, you guys have put up over 40 points. What stands out to you about Air Force's defense?
Well, the one thing it's a veteran group. You got quite a few juniors and seniors on that team, and I think one of them, they play extremely hard. That stands out. Scheme-wise, we can get into all the different schemes. They're very sound. They're very well coached. They're very disciplined in what they do, but they play hard, and they play physical, and they tackle really well. Their safeties are no different. Number 2, their safety right now, I think, is a very good football player and a very good tackler. And Steel Hammer, who played for him a few years ago, that guy was as good as they come, right? I'm not sure what unit he's leading right now, but I'm sure he is, because that guy, I always admired how he played, and I really, getting a chance to compete against a player like that, he's a good player. You respect that. And we got a lot of respect for the guys on their team, but what they showed in the Colorado game, those guys, they made plays. They tackled well, and there were opportunities for those guys at Colorado to get out and make an explosive play, and they didn't allow that to happen. So for us, how does that apply to us? Well, you need to understand what you're getting into. And when you have somebody that's a good tackler, you need to be a great tackle breaker. So you need to make sure that you work that as well. You got to be great and elusive, take care of the football. You got to find ways to be aggressive when it's going to be that one-on-one opportunity. And if that's putting your shoulder down or making somebody miss, then those things have to happen on the offensive side. So if we don't go out there and show tremendous toughness on the offensive side, then that's going to be a long day for us. I think our guys are capable, but you have to do it. And it's got to happen in practice, and it's got to show up in the game. That it? Okay.